Sometimes we mistake love for attachment, but that also isn't me prefacing this saying that you weren't or are not in love with her and don't love her as an individual. After my last relationship ended, I went to one of my mentors and I'm like, it feels like she manipulated me. It feels like she walked all over me. Here's how I phrased it to him. I said, at first, I didn't take the bullshit and I put my foot down. And then I said, I eventually cared so much about her that I let her then walk all over me. And my coach, he stopped me and he's like, hold on a second. You don't reward somebody's worst possible behavior that you deeply love and care about. He said, that's not care, that's weakness. And it took me like a whole week and a half to 2 weeks to actually fully internalize and realize, like, oh, there was a kind of weak, insecure part of myself. And that's not to shame myself for it, but it is to bring the root to the surface and to pull the weed out and say, like, oh, there was something deeper here in it. I can't just blame somebody else for the way they acted, but I also have to take accountability what I put up with and what I continue to allow happen. Because there's a deep reflection there. Because if we're taking the most secure individual possible, which is not even 1% of the population, I don't think anybody, we all have insecurities, and we always all will to a certain degree, although we can work on them and integrate them. If we were to have no insecurities, we wouldn't be human. Since these are parts of ourselves, we have to look at them when they come up and see where we're going wrong, or I don't want to use the word wrong, but we're going in a direction that doesn't serve us. But the answer is always there. It's really funny because every time anyone who's been in, if you could say, like, I was in a toxic relationship or there was someone I was dating where it just wasn't good for me, you know it when you're in it. But there's this goes really deep because this goes into the dark part of our nature. It's like, well, hold on a second. This part of me that's being mistreated, what part of me actually, like, accepts this and thinks that this is what I am worthy of and deserving of? And oftentimes this goes back to our childhood. Sometimes it's the relationship with your parents. Sometimes it's the past friendships and past relationships you've had. And sometimes our perception of love is, I'm treated this way. And this way means I'm treated like 2 out of 10 of what I actually truly desire and what my soul needs. But we accept it because it's like, well, I've never had the 10 out of 10 love that I've always dreamed of and wanted that I see in fucking Disney movies. So what? I'm just gonna accept what's in front of me and say, this is just how it is. You do that over and over again until somebody walks into your life that shows you otherwise. But here's the thing. If you don't do the internal work when those relationships end, when that person that is right for you and can show you the 10 out of 10, you will either reject them, run away, or self-sabotage in some way, shape, or form. Because there's a little part of us, and I like, this is where I go, we've been talking about the animal and the spirit a lot, and on the last group call, we talked about the inner child a little bit. And so I was actually covering this in one of my YouTube videos. Every single one of us, regardless of our age, the child version of us, energetically, that little boy in us that felt hurt when he was 5 years old and mom said this to him and he never recovered. And so what do? He manifests himself in all of our deep traumatic emotional experiences that we have today as an adult. What do we often do as men? We say, I'm experiencing this emotion, please go away. When of course the true integration process is, thank you for showing me this part despite it being the most uncomfortable, almost unbearable experience that I'm going through. But what is this trying to teach me? So to go back to the whole root of the conversation, the reflection of, I miss my ex-girlfriend. What did this whole experience as a whole, what is she trying to teach me? Or more of, what is, whether you believe in some sort of God or entity or not, it's like, what is God, the universe, trying to teach me here? Or simply, what is this situation and this experience I had with this person teaching me about relationships, about the relationship with myself, about spirituality, about how I should move forward in life? What does it teach me about my insecurities? What am I good at? What can I improve upon? And you go down this whole laundry list, and really that's all you can do. As for the emotion of, like, I kind of miss her, let that be there. But also understand, if things were kind of as toxic as it seems like they were, you don't miss her as the individual person and what she gave you. You miss the potential of what we think every human being is capable of, which is giving us the exact love and meeting all of our needs. Problem is, most human beings can't meet all of our needs because most people aren't right for us. One of my coaches says this. He says, every single time somebody tries to walk out of your life, instead of trying to ask them to stay, you let them go, and then you ask yourself the very deep question of, why do I need them to stay? And at first, when you ask yourself that question, like, there's going to be tons of stuff that come up. Like, well, I need them to stay because I'm going to be lonely, or I can't have sex, or I'm not going to feel connected to anybody, or my life is going to suck, and I'm not going to be able to go to my work on time because she always wakes me up in the morning, and all of this stuff is going to be overwhelming. And then you're going to realize that you were just outsourcing things to people. Now, that being said, I do believe relationships are absolutely required for us to thrive in our lives. But there is a certain credibility that we need to give ourselves of like, hey, these things, like getting myself up in the morning, giving myself some degree of love and acceptance and connectedness with myself and what I do for work and everything else, like there's power in that. We all have this void inside of us. We're born with it. You know, the giant gaping hole energetically that we all feel of like, what if I'm alone for the rest of my life? Or like, what if I don't ever find the one? Just that deep loneliness. Nobody likes to admit that we have that. We all walk around throughout our daily experience and pretend that that doesn't exist. It very much does. And the emotions you have with her of like, kind of missing her and stuff, you know, allow that to be there. It's showing you also how much you care and how much you wish things could have went in the way that you wanted them to. And you can project that into the future of like, okay, well now I know what to look out for. And now I know the, let's say, few things that she did that were right. Like, how can I take those with me, internalize them, and look for them in a future relationship? And all of our relationships, romantically or otherwise, that don't work out, teach you so much about any relationship of the future if we listen to the lesson, because they're always there. But it's like, okay, 10 red flags, all horrific. What could you do? You could blame them after the relationship ends, and then get into the same relationship with a girl with a different face, but she's the same person. And then you repeat the cycle and over again. Or you could do the reflection, which is taking a pretty extensive period of time after your last relationship ends and sit down with yourself and be like, what was all of this for? And you kind of deconstruct everything. And this is a painful process. You go to bed and you're like, I fucking miss this person. And you wake up and you go, I miss this person. And you go to bed and you wake up and you go to bed and you wake up and you're like, when the fuck is this going to end? When am I going to finally learn the lesson? When am I going to finally be able to move forward? And then at some point you start waking up and you're like, I don't feel this as much. It's because you're doing the inner work and asking yourself the deep questions and internalizing these things and developing a deeper relationship with yourself, as opposed to, let me just get in a rebound relationship. Let me go hook up with 15 people. Let me take myself away from the emotional experience and into an emotional experience that is pleasurable. And as we've talked about many times in this group, pleasure we think equals happiness. Pleasure often equals pain very quickly. In the short term, you can do anything that's pleasurable. Like, you can take a ton of drugs, you can do a bunch of things. In the short term, like, oh my god, this feels great. And then very quickly, you're like, oh, I'm addicted now. Oh, this isn't fun anymore. This is no longer pleasurable. This is, in fact, the most painful experience I've ever had in my entire life. And now, on top of the heartbreak that you're experiencing and your lack of ability to move on and internalize these things and learn the lesson, now you're dealing with a whole other addiction that could have been completely avoided if you sat down and said to yourself, maybe I should actually learn from this experience instead of distracting myself and not fuck myself over. After 90% of the relationships I've ever been in, I've taken like at least 8 or 9 months to just fully process everything before I'm even having a conversation with another girl. That's just me, and that's not me advising you can't talk to people before that period. It's whatever works for you. The whole point of it is the reflection is absolutely essential for all of us. If we don't ever do the reflection, and you guys will notice this if you've had past relationships where you haven't done the reflection, you've gotten into another one. Do you notice like how it just carries over? The emotional experience that you had with them, like it never truly leaves, and the attachment also never truly leaves, and that's the most dangerous part. Because if you're going into another relationship when you still have a deep emotional attachment to another human being, you're fucked. Because how could you be fully present with someone if you're always like, well, I wish this person was still in my life. I wish like things would have worked out.